Hello there, dear friend. Come sit with me for a moment, maybe on your favorite porch chair, maybe with a soft breeze nearby and a warm mug in hand. Let's imagine something lovely together. Have you ever passed by a small patio and felt a flutter of curiosity? It might have had twinkling lights above a chair nestled between bright flowers, or just a quiet charm that made it feel special, like a place where someone lives gently and beautifully. You might have wondered, how do they do it? And perhaps more than once you've looked at your own outdoor space and thought it's too small, too plain, too late. But today I want to show you something different. Not a catalog, not a shopping list, but 25 simple, soulful garden ideas that don't cost much and don't ask too much either. Many of them use things you already have around the house or can find at a thrift store, a neighbor's curb, or tucked in the garage. These are ideas made for wise hands, for slow days, for people who see beauty in old things. Whether your garden is a balcony, a patch of patio, or a quiet nook near the back steps, this is your invitation to see it with new eyes. Because you don't need youth or money to create something lovely. You just need a little care, and perhaps a few sparks of inspiration, the kind we're about to explore together. So come along, let's make your patio a place that feels like peace. Have you ever stood in someone's backyard and quietly thought, I wish my patio looked like this? Maybe it was the way the plants spilled over the edges of their pots, or how the space seemed to glow even in the afternoon sun. It might have felt like stepping into a magazine, but without any hint of pretension. And then came the surprise, it was all DIY, handmade, thrifted, reimagined from old things that most people would toss aside. That's the moment when something clicks, when you realize that beautiful spaces aren't always about money or expensive landscaping. They're often built with time, thought, and a little love. A chipped table becomes a statement piece with some paint and mosaic tiles. A pile of old cinder blocks becomes a sculptural planter wall. And an unused mirror leaned just right can make a narrow patio feel twice as wide. The illusion you see is never about luxury. It's about layering texture, color, and meaning in a small space. The patios that feel the most expensive are often the ones filled with memory and care, not high-end brands. I remember visiting a neighbor years ago who had the tiniest porch I'd ever seen. Yet she'd hung an old birdcage filled with ivy-stacked painted crates with herbs and strung some solar fairy lights above. That was it, but it felt like magic. She told me I just made one thing beautiful, then another. It added up. That's our starting point today. You don't need to change everything. You just need to begin, one lovely corner at a time. Let's begin with a garden that grows upward, a wall of life. You may not have much floor space, but your walls, fences, and railings, they're full of untapped potential. A vertical garden brings beauty to eye level, where it's easier to enjoy and easier to care for. You don't need anything fancy. A simple wooden pallet, a thrifted trellis, or even an old piece of metal fencing propped against a wall becomes your garden's vertical canvas. Then come the containers, and this is where the charm really shines. Think outside the plastic pot. A woven basket, a vintage colander, a chipped teapot, or a tin bucket can all be transformed into planters. Secure them with strong hooks, nails, or twine, whatever feels safest and simplest for your space. Once hung, you just fill each container with a bit of soil and a favorite plant. Soft trailing herbs like thyme, oregano, or lemon balm. Colorful petunias or pansies. Even a few succulents for those sunny spots. It becomes a living patchwork quilt, and you can build it slowly over time, one planter at a time. This idea isn't just beautiful, it's gentle. Especially for older gardeners, this setup saves your knees and back. No bending, no crouching. Everything is within arm's reach, right where your hands can comfortably tend and water. It makes gardening feel more like painting or crafting, calm and creative. A dear friend of mine, now in her 70s, turned her condo balcony into a miniature oasis with just a trellis and 4 baskets. She painted each one a different pastel, filled them with herbs she uses for cooking, and added tiny wooden labels. "It gives me something to wake up for," she said. "I drink my tea out there now." You can go soft and serene, all whites, greens, and lavenders. Or lively and joyful, bold blooms, bright baskets, and bees buzzing. However you choose to style it, this garden grows upward, just like us. still blooming, still reaching toward the light. So take a look at that blank bit of fence or that bare wall outside your kitchen window. It might just be the perfect place to let something grow. There's something about the sound of water that calms the soul, isn't there? A soft trickle, a gentle splash like nature's lullaby. It doesn't have to be loud or elaborate to bring peace. In fact, the quietest fountains are often the most powerful. That's why one of the most charming additions to any patio is a simple ceramic pot fountain. Now I know what you might be thinking, that sounds expensive, or I don't know how to install something like that. But here's the beautiful truth: you don't need plumbing wiring or a crew of landscapers. You just need a large ceramic pot, a smaller inner container to hide a small solar-powered pump, and a sunny little corner. You can often find these pots at thrift shops, garage sales, or in your own backyard. Choose one with a color or texture that brings you joy: glazed cobalt soft terracotta, or something with tiny cracks and character. That's the charm. Place the pot on a sturdy surface, fill it with clean water, and nestle the small solar pump inside. When the sun shines, the water dances. If you like, you can decorate the bottom of the pot with Riverstone's marbles or seashells collected from past vacations. Want something extra lovely? Float a few petals on top, rose camellia, or whatever blooms are nearby. It's not just decoration, it's emotion. A fountain like this makes your patio feel like a hidden retreat, a spa just for you. This project is especially good for older hands. No heavy lifting, no harsh digging. You can place and arrange everything while seated at your own pace. And once it's set, it cares for itself, running only when the sun allows. It becomes a gentle rhythm in your day, a reminder to pause, to breathe. One woman I knew, a retired teacher, placed hers next to her reading chair. Every afternoon, she'd sit by the fountain with a book and her tea. It doesn't just cool the air, she told me. It calms my thoughts. That's the quiet power of water. So if you find a lonely ceramic pot gathering dust, don't plant something in it. Give it a new voice. Let it sing with sunlight and ripple with peace. Let's talk about something most people overlook: cinder blocks. Heavy, gray, often forgotten behind sheds or in the corners of hardware stores. But in the right hands, they can become a statement. In fact, painted cinder block planters are one of the most surprisingly stylish ways to elevate your patio. And the best part, you don't need to spend more than a few dollars. Start by gathering a few blocks, maybe 2, maybe 6. No need to buy new ones. Old blocks work just as well and often look even better with a bit of wear. Give them a good rinse and let them dry. Then comes the fun part: paint. Choose colors that bring you comfort. Earthy tones like sage green, dusty rose, or sandstone. Or go playful with lavender, sunflower yellow, or sky blue. You can paint while seated, taking your time. Let each stroke become its own little moment. A sponge or roller works well, no need for perfection. In fact, the uneven brush marks often give it a rustic charm. Once dry, you can stack the blocks however you like. Some arrange them in staggered towers. Others build stair-step formations or keep them low to the ground. Tuck a few upright so that the hollow holes face out, then fill those with potting soil. Herbs like basil or mint love this setup. So do succulents and trailing blooms. They peek out from the square pockets like nature's own window boxes. What makes this project especially wonderful for older gardeners is its flexibility. The blocks are heavy enough to stay in place so they won't tip in the wind, but each one can be placed gently and intentionally. You can build the structure little by little over a few days, even a few weeks. There's no rush, no bending if you work at waist height. Just the quiet joy of shaping something with your hands. I remember helping my aunt build one of these in her side yard. She was in her 80s, a retired nurse, and she called it her little fortress of flowers. She painted each block a different pastel and planted something new each season. Over time, it became a living sculpture, part garden, part memory. So if you have a few blocks lying around, don't toss them. Transform them. There's beauty in strength. And sometimes even concrete can bloom. Have you ever looked at a broken dish and felt a little sadness? Maybe it was part of a wedding set or a plate that once held birthday cake for the kids. Most of us tuck these things away or throw them out. But what if I told you those broken pieces could become the most beautiful part of your garden? That's the magic of Mosaic. And a small patio table is the perfect place to start. This project begins with something simple, a table. It could be a metal plant stand, a wooden side table, or even a tray you don't use anymore. The base doesn't matter, what matters is the top. That's your canvas. Now gather your bits and pieces. Old dishes, cracked tiles, glass beads, seashells, even polished stones or marbles. Arrange them like a puzzle on the tabletop, turning and placing each one like a memory being rediscovered. You don't need a perfect plan, just let it take shape naturally. Once you're happy with the layout, glue the pieces down using waterproof adhesive. Let it dry completely. Then spread grout across the surface, gently pressing it into the gaps. Wipe away the excess and watch as your once forgotten fragments become something whole again. This is one of those projects that feels more like therapy than work. There's no rush. You can sit and create at your own pace. A little each morning, a few pieces each evening. For seniors especially, it's a soothing activity. No lifting, no kneeling, no strain. Just quiet creation. One woman I knew lost her husband after 52 years together. She didn't want to throw away their old teacups, but using them hurt too much. So she broke them gently, carefully, and made them into a mosaic table for her patio. Now, she said, we still sit together every morning. That's the heart of this project. Every piece you lay holds a story. Every gap you fill is a gentle reminder that healing like beauty comes from patience and care. And when you're finished, you won't just have a table. You'll have a work of art, one that holds history, hope, and a place to set your tea. Now let's bring the garden to you literally. If bending down or walking back and forth feels like too much some days, why not create a garden that rolls? A small herb cart on wheels can be one of the most useful and elegant features on your patio. It follows the sun, fits in tight corners, and makes harvesting a joy rather than a chore. Start with a cart. Not a fancy one, an old tea trolley, a kitchen utility cart, or even a bar cart that's seen better days. You might have one hiding in the garage or spot one at a yard sale. Give it a gentle scrub, maybe a new coat of paint in a soft sage or cream, and you've already started something lovely. Line each shelf with shallow trays or small baskets to hold your pots. You can use ceramic planters, repurposed tins, or even mason jars. Just make sure there's drainage or place a layer of small stones at the bottom of each. Then choose your favorite herbs: basil, rosemary, peppermint, parsley. Whatever brings you joy or flavor. One dear neighbor of mine called hers her herb wagon. She rolled it from the porch to the kitchen door, depending on the weather. On cool mornings, it sat in the sun near her chair, and in the evening, she'd roll it closer to the house. Everything was at waist height, easy to tend, trim, and water. And the beauty of a cart garden is its flexibility. Want to grow tea herbs like chamomile and lemon balm? Go ahead. Prefer cooking herbs? Line them up and clip as needed. You can even label each pot with handmade tags or little chalk signs for charm and ease. For older gardeners, this is a wonderful way to stay close to the joy of growing without the aches and effort of ground-level gardening. No kneeling, no lifting heavy pots. Just a gentle push, a bit of watering, and the quiet pride of harvesting what you've grown yourself. So before you donate or discard that old cart, take a second look. It might be more than just furniture, it might be your next garden. Sometimes it isn't more space we need, just a fresh way to see the space we already have. And that's where a mirror comes in. Not for vanity, but for magic. A well-placed mirror on a patio wall or garden fence does something beautiful. It doubles the greenery, brightens dark corners, and gives the illusion that your garden stretches on and on. You don't need a giant mirror or anything expensive. In fact, smaller thrift store finds often work best. Look for an old frame with character wood, metal, or even peeling paint. A bit of wear just adds charm. And the mirror itself, it doesn't have to be perfect. A little cloudiness, a few scratches, it still reflects light and beauty. Find a secure spot against a wall or fence somewhere. It can catch a glimpse of your plants, the sky, or even a string of fairy lights. That reflection becomes a window to more garden, a secret door to someplace bright. A sweet woman I once knew had a narrow patio hemmed in by high walls. It felt like a hallway, she said. But then she hung an old arched mirror behind her plant stand. Just one. And suddenly the space felt softer, wider. She placed a potted fern just in front of it, and from her chair it looked like there were two. This trick works best in corners where natural light already shines. The mirror catches and spreads it. And you can frame it with climbing vines, hang a small wreath over it, or let the flowers below be its decoration. It doesn't just reflect the garden, it reflects your care. And the beauty of this idea, it's wonderfully gentle. No digging, no watering, no bending or lifting. Just a quiet transformation, a mirror, some light, and a little imagination. So next time you walk past a discarded mirror, pause. It might not belong on a wall inside, but outside with the wind in the leaves, and the sky above it might be the perfect window to something brighter. Now here's a garden idea that might surprise you, turning old rain gutters into a modern wall of green. Yes, the same metal or plastic channels meant to carry water off your roof can become some of the prettiest, most space-saving planters you've ever seen. And the transformation? It's nothing short of delightful. This is especially useful if your patio is small, or if you're looking to grow things at arm's reach. Gutters can be mounted directly onto a fence, a wooden board, or even the wall of a shed. You'll want to secure them with brackets or screws, just a few spaced evenly so they can hold soil and water without sagging. Now here's where the creativity begins. Fill the gutters with potting soil and plant shallow-rooted herbs, greens, or flowers. Think leaf lettuce, strawberries, mint, or petunias that drape gently over the edge. You can arrange the gutters in straight rows, stagger them at different heights, or even angle them to create a zigzag pattern, whatever feels most pleasing to the eye. One gentleman I met, a retired postman, built his own rain gutter garden along his back fence using scrap materials from the hardware store's clearance bin. He painted them sky blue and planted pansies, basil, and sweet alyssum. I like watching them spill over the edge, he told me. It's like the plants are reaching out to say hello. This project is especially friendly for older gardeners. Everything is upright, no crouching, no kneeling. Watering is easy with a small can, and harvesting herbs or clipping flowers happens at standing height. And because the gutters are shallow, they encourage you to keep things light and manageable. If you want to add a personal touch, consider painting the gutters a soft pastel, or even labeling each one with little wooden signs. You can also attach small decorative hooks underneath to hang garden tools, wine chimes, or even a tiny bird feeder. It's a simple idea, but the effect is powerful. A plain wall becomes a living gallery, and something once meant to carry away rain becomes a place that catches life. So the next time you spot a rain gutter being discarded, look again. It might be the beginning of your very own wall of blooms. Old window frames have a certain nostalgia, don't they? They remind us of quiet mornings, lace curtains, and sunlight streaming through the glass. Even without the panes, the frame itself feels like it holds a story. That's what makes it such a perfect piece to turn into a vertical garden display, a little window to beauty. You don't need anything new. In fact, the more worn and weathered the frame, the better. You might have one stored in the garage or find one leaning near the bins at a thrift store or flea market. All you need is a bit of imagination and a few pots or containers small enough to hang inside the window's openings. Each empty square becomes a planting pocket. You can attach tiny mason jars, tin cans with holes punched for drainage, or miniature hanging baskets. Secure them with wire twine or metal hooks depending on the weight and frame strength. Then fill them with herbs, cheerful pansies, succulents, or trailing ivy. One couple I met in their late 60s made a window frame garden together during a rainy spring weekend. They'd been meaning to replace the broken frame from their back porch door, but instead of tossing it, they painted it robin's egg blue and hung it on their fence. Each pane now holds a tiny clay pot with herbs they cook with daily. They call it their garden pantry. This kind of vertical garden is wonderfully senior-friendly. It's light on the body, no digging, no bending. You can sit at a table to pot the plants and hang the frame at standing height. It's also a project that can be built slowly, one pot at a time, whenever the mood or energy allows. You can even personalize the frame. Add little signs, a welcome message, or a floral stencil along the edge. Want a vintage feel? Leave the peeling paint. Prefer something brighter? A fresh coat of color makes it shine. What's beautiful about this project is not just the plants, it's the frame itself. A symbol of looking out, of inviting life in, of giving old things a second view. So if you ever come across a discarded frame, don't walk past. Pick it up. Let it open a window into your garden's soul. There's something timeless about a garden bench, a place to sit, to rest, to think. But what if that bench could also bloom with a little creativity? Even the oldest seat can be transformed into a cozy retreat surrounded by flowers, herbs, or trailing greenery. A bench with built-in planters doesn't just save space, it turns your sitting spot into the heart of your patio. You don't need to buy anything fancy. If you have an old wooden bench, maybe one that's chipped, faded, or missing a slat, you already have what you need. Start by brushing off dirt and giving it a good clean. Then decide where the plants will go. Some people remove the seat slats and insert containers beneath. Others build simple wooden boxes on each end of the bench, like friendly garden arms that hold blooms instead of elbows. You can paint the bench to match your patio theme, soft sage-weathered white cheerful yellow, or leave it raw for a rustic look. For the planter sections, line them with plastic or cocoa liners, then fill with potting soil. Herbs like thyme, lavender, or chives work beautifully. So do cheerful flowers like begonias, petunias, or trailing lobelia. I once visited a neighbor named Helen who was in her late 70s. She had a worn green bench tucked under her patio awning. On each side, she had built planter boxes and filled them with marigolds and mint. "I sit here in the morning with my coffee," she said, "and it smells like summer." She'd even added a small drawer beneath the seat to hold her garden gloves and clippers. The beauty of this project is in its gentle nature. It's something that can be done piece by piece, even while seated. There's no need for heavy lifting or tools beyond a drill or screwdriver. And once it's complete, it offers both rest and reward, a seat for you and a home for your plants. This kind of upcycled furniture is more than practical. It tells a story. It says, "I still belong. I still have purpose." And isn't that a lovely reminder for all of us? So next time you pass by an old bench that's lost its shine, look again. It might just be ready to bloom beside you. Sometimes, all a patio needs is a little glow, not from the sun, but from something gentler. Fairy lights strung across an open sky can turn even the smallest outdoor space into a magical retreat. They don't cost much. They don't take much work. But once you hang them, something in the air shifts. It becomes quieter, softer, more yours. This idea works beautifully whether you have a full patio, a balcony, or just a cozy nook by the garden fence. Start by choosing your lights. Solar-powered strands are ideal. No cords, no outlets, no fuss. They charge by day and sparkle to life as the sun sets. Choose warm white for a golden glow or soft amber for a vintage touch. To hang them, you'll need a few anchor points. These could be hooks on your wall poles placed in weighted planters, or even strong tree branches overhead. If you have a pergola or railing, even better, you already have the frame. Then comes the stringing. You can hang the lights straight across in rows or drape them in loose scallops. Some like to zigzag them low, creating a soft ceiling of light. Others spiral them around a post or let them trail down like waterfalls. There's no wrong way, only what feels right to your space. I remember a widow named Mrs. Daly who lived next door to me for many years. One evening, I saw her sitting quietly outside with a book and a glass of lemonade. Above her, dozens of tiny lights shimmered like stars. She told me later I put them up after my husband passed. I missed having light at night. Now I never feel alone. And that's what these little lights do. They offer comfort, not just to the eyes, but to the spirit. They invite you to linger outdoors longer, to sip your tea a little slower, to listen to the crickets, and to let the day fade peacefully. For seniors, it's a gentle project, no heavy lifting, no tools, but maybe a step stool and a little patience. Once installed, they ask nothing of you but to enjoy them. So don't wait for a party or a holiday. Hang your lights today and let every evening feel a little more magical. There's something about old wooden crates that feels comforting, like they've traveled through time, carrying apples, milk bottles, maybe someone's harvest from long ago. Today, these humble boxes can become one of the most charming and useful features in your patio garden. With a few stacked crates, you can create rustic plant towers that offer beauty storage and just a little bit of nostalgia. Start with what you have: fruit crates, wine boxes, shipping bins. They don't need to match. In fact, the more variety, the better. Give them a light sanding if needed, then choose a finish. You might paint them soft white for a shabby chic look, pastel blue for cottage style, or simply seal the natural wood to let its story show through. Stack them vertically to make a tall tower, or place them side by side to form a low, wide display. For safety and stability, it helps to screw the crates together or attach them to a sturdy wall or fence. Once in place, you can fill them with whatever your heart desires: small potted plants, garden tools, birdhouses, or your favorite little figurines. A dear friend of mine, now in her 80s, uses her crate stand for everything from flower pots to her morning crossword and cup of tea. She even added wheels to the bottom so she can turn it toward the sun. It's not just storage, she told me. It's a little piece of my life, stacked up in bloom. What makes this idea so ideal for seniors is its gentle flexibility. You can paint and arrange everything while seated. You don't have to lift heavy items or dig into the ground. And if your tastes or needs change, you can rearrange the crates, repaint them, or move them with ease. You can also tuck small surprises inside a tucked-away solar light, a lavender sachet, or a favorite garden quote printed on a card. These little touches make the crate tower more than just practical, they make it personal. So next time you see an old wooden crate at the thrift store or flea market, don't walk past it. Pick it up, bring it home. Let it become part of your story, one layer at a time. There's something deeply grounding about wood, especially the kind that's been shaped by time. A tree stump or thick log slice, once part of a mighty trunk, holds years of history in its rings. Instead of tossing it aside, why not let it continue its story as a rustic patio table with a living surprise tucked inside? The idea is simple but full of charm. Take a sturdy stump or thick round of wood, one that's flat on top and wide enough to use as a small table. You might have one in your yard after a tree was trimmed, or spot one at a roadside woodpile or landscape center. Let it dry thoroughly, brush off any dirt, and decide whether you'd like to leave it natural or add a light sealant to protect it from weather. Now comes the special part. Using a hammer and chisel or a small saw, if you're comfortable, carefully carve out a shallow hole in the center or side of the stump. It doesn't need to be deep, just enough to hold a small bit of soil and a few low-growing plants. Line it with plastic if you like, add potting mix, and tuck in moss succulents or tiny flowers. You've now created something truly unique, part furniture, part sculpture, part garden. One retired carpenter I met did this with an old stump from the apple tree he climbed as a boy. He planted thyme and hens and chicks in the center and placed the stump beside his reading chair. "I sit next to it every morning," he said. "It holds my mug and a little piece of my past." This kind of project is beautiful for seniors. It doesn't require perfection or speed. The carving can be done slowly with help if needed, or you can simply set a planter bowl on top, no cutting required. The result is still the same: nature, usefulness, and memory combined. Each time you sit beside it, you'll feel its warmth, not just from the sun, but from the story it carries. So if you come across a log that looks too beautiful to burn, trust your instinct. Sand it, plant it, and make it your own. Because in a world rushing forward, it's nice to have something solid, slow, and quietly blooming by your side. Sometimes the best garden shelves aren't built, they're found. A wooden ladder weathered from years of use can be transformed into one of the most charming vertical gardens you'll ever create. It stands tall, takes up very little floor space, and invites your plants to climb toward the light. You don't need a fancy multi-tiered shelving unit or a trip to the store. Just an old ladder, the kind that's no longer safe for climbing, but still strong enough to lean. You can often find them at yard sales, flea markets, or even tucked behind a shed. Start by cleaning the ladder well and deciding on a finish. Leave it raw for a rustic look, or paint it soft white, pale blue, or even a cheerful coral to brighten up your patio. Once dry, find a safe place to lean it against a fence, a wall, or even the side of your house. If you're worried about stability, you can secure it with a few brackets or ties. Now for the fun part, the plants. Each rung of the ladder becomes a shelf. You can use it to hold small pots of herbs, trailing ivy, cheerful pansies, or even a bowl of succulents. Mix heights and colors for visual interest. Some gardeners tie twine or ribbon around the rungs to hang tiny baskets or lanterns. Others add personal touches like handwritten plant markers or painted stones. A retired librarian I once knew had the most enchanting ladder garden on her back porch. She arranged her plants by scent: mint on the bottom, lavender in the middle, and sweet alyssum at the top. "It's like reading a story from the ground up," she told me, "and I never have to bend down to turn the page." That's the beauty of this project. It's easy on the body. You can water, prune, and enjoy your plants at standing or seated height. No digging, no lifting, just stacking beauty where it's easiest to reach. And the ladder itself, it becomes more than a prop. It becomes a symbol of growth, of steps taken, of rising up rung by rung, season after season. So, if there's a forgotten ladder leaning in your garage, bring it out into the light. Let it hold something green, something blooming, something just beginning again. Some items are just too full of character to throw away, and old boots are one of them. Scuffed, worn, maybe even torn at the seams, they carry stories in every crease. Instead of tossing them, why not give them a second life as playful, one-of-a-kind planters that bring a smile to every guest who walks past your garden? Boot planters are a joy to create, and they require almost no effort. Start by finding a pair that's past its walking days: rubber rain boots, leather work boots, even tiny outgrown children's shoes. Give them a rinse and check the bottoms for drainage holes. If none exist, poke a few small ones with a screwdriver or nail. Then fill each boot with a bit of gravel at the base, top it with potting soil, and plant something cheerful. Marigolds, petunias, pansies, or small herbs all work beautifully. You can group several boots together at the edge of your patio, or line them along a pathway for a whimsical garden walk. There's something about mismatched boots, one red one, brown one floral, that feels delightfully human. It says things don't have to match to belong. That's a message many of us grow to understand with age. I once visited a small retirement community where each resident had a boot planter outside their door. One woman had planted mint in her late husband's work boots. Another filled her old garden shoes with white daisies. He always said I tracked sunshine into the house. She smiled. It wasn't just gardening, it was memory planted and blooming. This project is especially kind to older hands. You can sit while you work. The boots are lightweight and easy to reposition. If you like, you can even decorate them, tie a ribbon, paint a flower, or add a small label with the plant's name. It's a quiet, personal craft. No rules, just joy. And the best part, these planters start conversations. Guests will pause, laugh, and point. Children love them. Neighbors ask about them. They make your garden feel alive, not just with plants, but with personality. So next time you're cleaning out the closet and come across an old worn pair, don't say goodbye. Say hello to your garden's newest little character. Some garden treasures don't come from the nursery, they come from the junkyard. One of the most unexpected and sturdy upcycling ideas I've seen is turning an old tire rim into a bird bath or planter. At first glance, it's just a chunk of metal. Heavy, industrial, forgotten. But with a little imagination, it becomes a bold centerpiece that welcomes life into your patio. If you've ever replaced a car tire and had the rim left behind, you might still have one tucked away in a shed or garage. Or you can find one at a scrapyard, often for just a few dollars. The beauty of a tire rim is that it's already shaped like a bowl stand, strong, balanced, and weather-resistant. To make a bird bath, simply turn the rim upside down and place a shallow dish bowl or metal tray on top. Make sure it sits securely. You can add adhesive or even use small stones to weigh it in place. Fill the bowl with clean water and voila, you've just created a rustic oasis for your feathered visitors. Prefer plants? No problem. Just fill the top with a pot or container of soil and flowers. Trailing plants like sweet potato vine or nasturtium look especially beautiful draping over the edges. For a softer look, you can even wrap the rim in jute rope or paint it with weatherproof colors that match your garden theme. One man I met, a retired mechanic, had 5 rims lined up along his driveway, each one painted a different shade of blue and filled with vibrant zinnias. I spent my life fixing cars, he told me. Now I fix flower beds. This idea is ideal for seniors because of its stability and simplicity. There's no digging or mounting required. The rim stays put even in strong winds or curious pets. You can create the whole piece at waist height, and once it's in place, it's easy to maintain. And like so many things in the garden, it holds a gentle lesson. Sometimes what we think is scrap just needs a new role. Strength doesn't always look like softness, but even steel can serve beauty. So next time you spot a tire rim gathering rust, don't see a problem. See potential. See a place for wings to land or for blossoms to bloom. There's a quiet romance in old bird cages, their curved bars, delicate latches, the way they once held song. Even if they no longer house feathered friends, they can still cradle life in another form as enchanting hanging planters. A vintage bird cage, when filled with greenery, becomes a soft, poetic touch in any patio garden, like something from a fairy tale. Start by finding a bird cage with character. You might have one already or spot one at a thrift shop or flea market. Look for one with an open top or a door that still swings. It doesn't have to be pristine, rust-chipped paint, and age spots only add charm. Once you have your cage, give it a gentle clean. You can leave the metal exposed or spray it with a soft, weather-safe paint, white for a cottage, look sage for something earthy, or gold for a bit of whimsy. Then choose your plants. Moss succulents, trailing ivy, or small flowering herbs work beautifully inside. You can line the bottom of the cage with coconut fiber or landscape fabric to hold soil, or place a small pot inside if you prefer less mess. The vines and flowers will weave their way through the bars, peeking out like nature pressing against old memories. Hang the bird cage from a hook tree branch or shepherd's pole. If it's especially ornate, you might even set it on a small side table as a sculptural piece. A retired florist I once visited had 3 bird cages hanging at different heights on her patio. One held mint and trailing lobelia, another was filled with moss and violas, and the last held dried lavender bundles. "They're my little secret gardens," she said. "They hold more than plants, they hold quiet." What makes this idea especially gentle for seniors is how light and manageable it is. There's no digging, no heavy lifting. You can assemble everything at a table piece by piece and simply hang the cage when it's ready. And the symbolism. It's quietly beautiful. What once confined now holds something free. What once closed in a song now opens to scent and bloom. So if you come across a bird cage dusty and forgotten, don't pass it by. Pick it up, let it swing again, not with wings, but with leaves and life. Sometimes the most delightful garden ideas come from stacking the simplest things. Terracotta pots, those humble orange-brown classics, can be transformed into a cascading tower of herbs with nothing more than a little balance and imagination. It's a space-saving, scent-filled solution, perfect for even the tiniest patio, and it looks like something straight from an old-world courtyard. Start with 3 to 5 terracotta pots in descending sizes. You'll need one large pot as the base, and gradually smaller ones to build the tower. To keep everything stable, place a sturdy metal rod or wooden dowel through the drainage holes of each pot as you stack them. This helps anchor the entire structure and gives it strength against wind or curious animals. Begin by filling the largest pot with soil, securing the rod upright in the center. Then angle the next pot slightly to one side and slide it down the rod so it rests in the soil of the one below. Keep doing this with each smaller pot, alternating the direction of the tilt so the pots fan outward like a spiral staircase. Now the fun begins: planting. Choose herbs that make you happy: basil, rosemary, thyme, parsley. Even edible flowers like nasturtiums or calendula. Each layer becomes a little garden of its own, growing in tiers easy to reach and even easier to admire. One older gentleman I knew, a former chef, built his herb tower with his granddaughter on a sunny Saturday. He painted the rims of each pot in soft blues and greens and let her write the herb names in chalk. "Every recipe now begins right here," he smiled, pointing to his blooming tower near the kitchen door. This project is wonderfully senior-friendly. It can be assembled slowly at your own pace, and it doesn't require bending once it's upright. You can even place it on a wheeled base to rotate with the sun or move under cover during rain. And beyond the practical, it's a symbol of how small, ordinary things, when layered with intention, can become something extraordinary. A little clay, a little soil, a little patience. So next time you see a stack of unused terracotta pots, don't leave them sitting dusty in the shed. Build them into something beautiful. Let your herbs climb. Let your garden spiral upward, just like your joy. There's a special kind of charm in stepping stones, the way they guide your feet while gently inviting your eyes to wander. A path doesn't have to lead anywhere grand. Sometimes it just leads you from the back door to your favorite chair, or from one potted plant to another. But with a little creativity, you can turn leftover materials into a cobblestone walkway that looks handcrafted and timeless. You don't need to buy polished stones or hire a landscaper. In fact, this project is all about using what you have: old bricks, broken tiles, mismatched pavers, or even large pieces of smooth scrap wood. The more character, the better. Begin by mapping out a small pathway. It could curve gently through your container garden or create a visual break between sitting areas. No digging is required for a patio. Just place the stones or tiles directly on gravel sand or a bed of soil. If the surface is uneven, add a bit of builder's sand underneath each piece to level it. You can arrange the stones in a pattern like a mosaic, or let them meander in a free-form trail. Leave a bit of space between each one and tuck in creeping thyme moss or even crushed shells to fill the gaps. The result? A path that feels as if it's been there forever, quietly softening your space. A widow I once met created her garden path using broken pieces of her old kitchen floor tiles. It was the floor we danced on when we were young, she said. Now I walk it each morning with my coffee. Her story was in every step. This project is gentle for seniors, no lifting required if you use smaller pieces. You can work section by section, even from a seated position. And it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, the irregularities are what make it feel handmade and heartwarming. You might even add a few unexpected touches: a single blue stone among the browns, a word written in chalk, or a tile shaped like a leaf. These little surprises make the path feel personal, like a journey stitched with memory. So don't overlook those old bricks in the shed or broken tiles from long ago. Line them up. Let them carry you. Sometimes the most beautiful walks are the ones that stay close to home. Every garden needs a place to pause, a soft spot where you can sway gently in the breeze, close your eyes, and listen to the birds without needing to do a thing. For that, nothing beats a hammock or swing chair, not for the size, but for the feeling. It turns a corner of your patio into something sacred, a space meant only for peace. Now, before you picture something complex or dangerous, know this: there are safe, sturdy hammock chairs made specifically for porches and patios. They're smaller than traditional hammocks and hang from a single point, perfect for a corner with a beam, a strong hook, or even a freestanding frame. And they don't require climbing in or out like you're mounting a pirate ship. These are made for ease and comfort. You can find one at a garden center or thrift store, or even repurpose an old swing seat with new ropes and cushions. Look for materials that feel soft to the touch but are strong enough to hold. Cotton blends or weatherproof canvas are ideal. Then add a cushion or small pillow for extra comfort, maybe in a floral or garden stripe. A woman I met in her 60s placed a swing chair under her pergola and surrounded it with planters filled with jasmine and lemon balm. It's my thinking spot, she told me. And sometimes my not thinking spot. She kept a basket nearby with a throw blanket and her favorite paperback, always half read. This kind of garden addition is perfect for seniors. It encourages rest without asking anything in return. You can enjoy it in the morning with tea or in the evening while watching the sky change. No lifting, no tools beyond a secure hook or frame. Just a gentle sway and a quiet place to be. And here's the secret: it doesn't have to be a swing. Even a cozy chair tucked under an umbrella surrounded by potted plants and a wind chime can bring the same peace. The idea is to create a corner that says, "You've done enough for now. Sit, breathe." So if you've got a quiet patch of patio that's just sitting empty, imagine what it might become, not with more flowers, but with space for your spirit to rest. Old dressers have a funny way of sticking around. Maybe it's the squeaky drawer that never quite shut right, or the one that held your scarves and letters for years. And when it's finally time to let it go, there's often one part too charming to toss the drawers. Those shallow, boxy spaces can become some of the most delightful planters in your patio garden. With a little paint and potting soil, you can give them a new story rooted in beauty. Start by choosing a drawer or two. Deeper drawers are perfect for bigger plants, while shallow ones work well for herbs or succulents. If you don't have one at home, check your local thrift store or see if a neighbor has an old piece they're parting with. Don't worry about dense chips or mismatched knobs. Those imperfections only add character. Give the drawer a gentle clean and drill a few small drainage holes in the bottom. Then paint it in a color that speaks to you: soft mint, sunflower, yellow, dusty lavender. Or leave it weathered for a farmhouse feel. Once dry, fill it with potting soil and start planting. You can group several drawers together to make a tiered display or stack them slightly askew for a playful touch. I once met a retired seamstress who had turned her childhood dresser drawers into planters for pansies, strawberries, and thyme. She wrote the plant names on fabric labels and pinned them to each side. "It's like they're still holding something precious," she said. "Just different now." This project is especially gentle on older bodies. You can do most of it seated at a table, from cleaning and painting to planting and decorating. And once it's filled, the drawer can rest on any flat surface, no lifting or installation required. It's portable, customizable, and full of life. Add little extras if you like: a doily under the pot, a pair of old garden gloves tucked beside it, or a teacup nestled in the soil as a water dish for birds. These are the touches that turn a planter into a memory. So next time you see a discarded drawer, don't see clutter, see potential. Let it hold something again. Let it bloom. Old shutters have a quiet elegance to them, even when their paint is peeling or a slat is missing. They once framed windows that looked out onto family dinners, changing seasons, and quiet Sunday mornings. But when their time on the house is done, shutters don't need to be thrown away. Instead, they can be repurposed into one of the most beautiful vertical features your patio has ever seen: a shutter planter wall. This idea is perfect for narrow spaces or blank fences. You start by finding a pair of old shutters, either matching or mismatched. They're easy to come by at salvage yards or secondhand stores, and even if they've seen better days, that just makes them more charming. Give them a light cleaning, then paint or seal them to suit your garden style. Pale sage, robin's egg blue, weathered white, or even a soft rose all work beautifully. Mount the shutters against a fence railing or patio wall using simple brackets or screws. If mounting isn't an option, you can also lean them in a stable corner and secure them with garden stakes. Now comes the planting. Hang small buckets, tin cups, or mason jars from the slats using S-hooks or wire. Fill them with cheerful flowers, kitchen herbs, or trailing greenery like ivy or sweet potato vine. You can also attach miniature flower boxes or line the base of the shutters with a long planter for added fullness. One neighbor I knew, a former florist in her 70s, turned her childhood home's shutters into a vertical herb garden. She labeled each plant with a hand-painted sign and hung a small pair of scissors from a hook so she could snip basil and rosemary whenever she cooked. "It's like bringing the past forward," she told me. "But it smells better now." This project is ideal for seniors because everything stays upright and easy to reach. No kneeling, no digging. You can prep the containers at a table and hang them one by one at your own pace. And beyond the practicality, there's something deeply poetic about shutters becoming homes for new life. Where once they shielded the view, now they invite us to look closer. So if you see an old shutter leaning against a curb, take it home. Let it hold something beautiful again and let your garden peek through the slats. There's something wonderfully honest about a metal bucket. No frills, no fuss, just solid, dependable usefulness. But give it a fresh coat of paint and a few cheerful blooms, and it becomes something else entirely: a flower tower that's both rustic and radiant. This simple DIY is perfect for patios of all sizes and brings a touch of country charm to even the most urban spaces. Start with a few galvanized metal buckets, 3 to 5 in different sizes if possible. You can often find them at thrift shops, farm supply stores, or even hiding in your own shed. The key is to choose ones that nest slightly or can be stacked in tiers. Before assembling, drill small drainage holes in the bottom of each bucket. Then, if you'd like, paint the exteriors with outdoor-safe paint. Soft creams, powder blues, or vintage greens work beautifully, or you can leave the buckets raw and let the silver shine through. To create the tower, place the largest bucket at the bottom and fill it nearly to the top with soil. Then nestle the next bucket slightly off-center into the soil, pressing it down firmly. Repeat with the smaller buckets until your tower is complete, each one tilted slightly for character and cascading potential. Now comes the planting. Fill each bucket with trailing flowers like petunias, calabrachoa, sweet alyssum, or creeping jenny. As the season progresses, they'll spill over the sides like a waterfall of color. I once met a woman who made her flower tower from buckets her late husband used on their farm. She painted them soft yellow and planted only daisies, his favorite. He carried milk in them, she said. Now they carry sunshine. This project is especially friendly for older gardeners. You can build it slowly, one layer at a time. The buckets are easy to move when empty, and you can sit while planting. Once assembled, it's sturdy, weatherproof, and requires very little maintenance beyond regular watering. You can even tuck in extras: a solar light in the top bucket, a ceramic bird nestled at the base, or a ribbon tied to the handle of each pail. So next time you see a dented old bucket, don't pass it by. Let it rise again, not as a tool for chores, but as a tower of joy blooming proudly on your patio. Most of us have one, that old garden hose curled in a forgotten pile, kinked in places, maybe even cracked from the sun. It's no longer fit for watering, but before you toss it, consider this: what if that hose could bloom again? Not as a tool, but as art. A decorative garden wreath made from a hose is a charming, unexpected way to add personality to your patio and a smile to anyone who passes by. This project is delightfully simple. Start by coiling the hose into a circle about 14 to 18 inches across is just right. Secure the shape with zip ties, garden wire, or twine. You can loop the ends behind or tuck them under the coils to keep the wreath tidy. Now for the fun part: decorating. Add a bow made from burlap gingham ribbon or even an old garden glove tied into a knot. Tuck in silk flowers, faux vines, or real dried herbs like rosemary or lavender for scent. You can also attach miniature tools, a toy trowel, a packet of seeds, or a wooden label that says, "Welcome." Hang it on your patio wall, your garden gate, or even your shed door. It's light, weather resistant, and full of charm. And best of all, it tells a little story of days spent watering, weeding, and growing, and of creativity that keeps flowing, even when the hose no longer does. I once saw a woman in her 70s hang hers right above her garden bench. She'd tucked in fake daisies and a tiny ceramic frog. When I asked her why she made it, she chuckled. "Because I like the idea of something retired still being useful," she said. Like me. This DIY is perfect for seniors because it requires no soil, no bending, and no heavy lifting. You can sit comfortably at a table and assemble it with ease. The decorations can be changed with the season's sunflowers in summer, small pumpkins, and fall holly in winter, making it a cheerful, ever-evolving display. So the next time you find an old hose too stiff to coil or too leaky to keep, don't be so quick to throw it away. Wrap it up, dress it up, and let it remind you that even the most practical things can have a second life, one filled with beauty and joy. As we come to the end of our journey through 25 gentle patio ideas, I hope you're feeling something more than just inspired. I hope you're feeling reminded that creativity doesn't belong only to the young, that beauty doesn't have to come with a price tag, and that even the smallest outdoor space, a balcony, a corner of concrete, or a modest porch, can become something sacred with a little care and imagination. You've seen how a drawer can hold flowers instead of socks, how a broken plate can become the most treasured part of a table, how a boot, too worn to wear, can still carry life. Each idea was simple, not perfect, not mass-produced, but handmade, thoughtful, yours. And maybe, just maybe, that's the secret to a beautiful patio. Not perfection, but presence. Because when we touch the earth, even in a small pot, we touch something ancient, something healing. And when we transform forgotten things into something blooming, we're not just decorating. We're telling the world that we still see potential in objects, in places, in ourselves. One woman I knew, a widow in her 80s, once told me, "Every time I plant something, I remember I'm still growing too." Her patio wasn't big. It had an old table, a ladder with potted herbs, and a bird bath made from a chipped bowl. But it felt alive because she made it that way. That's what I hope for you, dear friend. Not just a prettier patio, but a space that reflects your soul, that holds your memories, that welcomes you back each day with softness and color and peace. So, if one of these 25 ideas sparked something in you, whether it's a rolling herb cart, a flower-filled rain gutter, or a mirror catching morning light, I hope you'll try it. And I hope you'll share it. Let us know which idea brought you joy. We'd love to hear your stories, your photos, your gentle masterpieces. And if this video made you smile, please do click the thumbs up. It helps our little garden family grow. And subscribe if you'd like more slow, budget-friendly beauty to bloom into your life. Until next time, happy gardening, and may your patio always feel like peace.